hear the songs that we're talking about, go to Delmarvalous Americana on YouTube for the full Megillah. Hi there, this is Billy Earl here on Delmarvalous Americana. You can find us on Pac 14 in beautiful downtown Salisbury, Maryland, as well as Delmarvalous Americana on YouTube. We are also available on NPR on WSDL 90.7. This show takes a look at those people who live and breathe and eat art and music. Make sure and go to Delmarvalous Americana House Concerts on Facebook for a schedule of those live music shows here in Salisbury, Maryland. Enjoy, adios, and namaste. We want to welcome Sue Bromm to the show today. Sue is a local artisan. She is a person of spiritual depth, and she has very cool taste in music. Sue, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you, Billy, for inviting me.
Oh, it is. You and I knew each other in the beginning from the UUFS, which most of the people who listen to this show understand that that's kind of a home to me. Tell me about where you are in your spiritual journey today.
So I left, well, where am I? I am a pagan contemplative. That's the title that I give myself.
What a cool name.
I have my bachelor's is in Catholic theology. My master's is in consciousness studies. I've been studying divine feminine for over 30 years.
Uh-huh.
And I honor the goddess in her many forms.
Wow, that's...
So that following of the goddess, specifically Mother Artemis, who is the goddess besides the hunter. She's also the goddess of weavers and craftspeople. She and Mother Gaia, the earth, influence my art because I work with foliage.
So it's all connected.
For me, it is all connected. To use a Catholic term, my art is the outward sign of my spiritual beliefs.
Well put. So, normally speaking, quantum entanglement doesn't come up too often on the show, but lately it has for some reason. How would you characterize the manifestation of your belief system?
So 15 years ago, I went to Goddard College for graduate school.
Uh-huh.
When I was there, I was introduced by many people to quantum theory. And as one professor said, Sue, you have embraced the myth of quantum theory. Let me explain this. When I watched What the Bleep, which is a wonderful film on the basics of quantum theory, and it talked about string theory.
Mm-hmm.
String theory is the basic entanglement, like you said, of strings of energy. And those strings of energy, when they come together, they form matter. Well, as soon as I heard that, my thought was, that's God. That is God. And humans need a face and a myth to explain what they can't explain. But that, in my mind, it's the interconnection to take the interbeing, to use a Thich Nhat Hanh term in Buddhism. It's the connection of everything. And that's what quantum theory is. To me, that's what God is. That's what Goddess is. And I choose to have you to see all of that with the female face.
Got it.
That's, yeah.
Well, let's do this. Let's turn to a couple of songs that are
Okay.
on your list here. Now, the first one is Layla. Now, when you say new version, is that the acoustic version?
The acoustic version, yes. Can I just tell you that the first time I heard it, I was in a grocery store and I could hear people all over the store singing it.
Well, it is considered one of the great songs. I think Rolling
Yeah,
Stone has it number 23, which I think is a miscarriage of justice. But
I
it's what, especially the electric version, and it's of particular interest to me because the acoustic version that we're familiar with was the way the song was originally written, and that's how it was going to be performed on Layla
wow.
and other love songs. When Duane Allman joined this group, he came up with that first little riff, and they made it into a rocker. So the song that we know, the electric version, was not the way that originally Eric Clapton had in his mind for the story of Layla and Manju, which was
Oh,
a Persian tale of love lost, of a guy who falls in love with a girl, loses his mind, and then cannot marry her.
okay.
Now, the second one, we have Brittany Howard here doing Hold On, and then one of my favorite musicians, writers, guitar players of all time, Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell, theoretically, and this is rumor only, over her career has used between 20 and 30 open tunings on her guitar. I don't know how in the world she keeps track of it, and I don't know how in the world you do that other than have 20 or 30 guitars already pre-tuned and have techs that come out and bring them. But let's tee these up, and we'll be back in a minute, and we're going to talk a little bit about what all these songs mean to you. Okay, here we are. We're back. Layla and Eric Clapton and Duane Allman and Derek and the Dominoes. I remember when that song came out, it was magnificent.
It was. And it was, I thought that it was one of the greatest songs I'd ever heard. The most perfect songs I'd ever heard. Yeah.
Well, I think it was an example of when an artist completely becomes vulnerable and tells an autobiographical tale of love lost and pain and anguish. That's what this song sounded like to me. And there was not only just the lyrical content, but it was the phrasing. It was the way that it was sung. Now, we have to give Bobby Whitlock a lot of credit for that. But point in when this song was mastered, there were 16 tracks on it. 6 of them were guitar between Duane Allman and Eric Clapton, 2 of the greatest guitar players ever. But the message behind it may have gotten lost a little bit with the hype. What do you think?
I can't, you're talking way over my head, my love.
Okay.
In interpretation, but because I'm not the musician, I'm the listener.
Aren't we all?
Maybe,
Let's talk a little bit about Brittany Howard. I'm not familiar with Hold On. Tell me the story behind that.
Hold On. She's reaching a point of she didn't real of difficulty in her life, you know. Brittany Howard was part of the Alabama Shakes.
Oh yeah.
That was the band that, you know, and they won Grammys together. And then also, I don't know the story of why she left, but anyway,
well, she was the band.
Song, she was the band, and she is such a presence that she captured me the first time I saw her on Austin City Limits years
Love
ago.
that show.
And but this song, it's to me, it's the universe talking to you, because they say, come on, Brittany, come on, love. You can hold on. You can do this. You can make it. She didn't believe that she was going to make it through all sorts of things. And you and I at our ancient age, we can look back at the different chapters and we know that we've held on. And as we approach something new, we know that we're going to make it. And that's it. And I just love her phrasing and everything else. So, yeah.
She's
And she's so
a monster
vulnerable.
talent.
Yes, she sounds so vulnerable when she sings too,
Uh-huh.
because she uses her whole body, like Janice did. They
Agreed.
feel every note. Yeah.
Yeah, they leave it all there on the field. Joni Mitchell has been, I would say, universally acclaimed as one of the great songwriters, with an asterisk next to it, being that nobody, or I would say very, very few, have ever approached the complexity and the interesting and the fascinating nature of her lyrical content. Coyote is a great example here. When did you first hear this song, and what did you think about it?
Coyote, when I bought the CD, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, the CD was Hijira, and the complexity of that whole album,
Yeah.
music and the storytelling, which she always does, but the storytelling was so vivid. And you could take song after song after song on that whole album. And when you compare it with her first album, Song of the Seagull, that she did with David Crosby, her progression and her growth and the journey that she takes us on, who are her followers, is just, it's delightful. And I chose Coyote because of the maturity of it.
Yeah.
So often, if you listen to music, it's women pleading for men to come back to them. And what did I do wrong? And angst and everything. And in this song, she's just, we met when I was on the road, and I know you're with other women, but I'm still attracted to you. And it's been really fun, which is raw and it's mature and it's real. And that's what I love about it too.
Is this, did Jocko play bass on this?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I don't think so.
The thing about her playing with Pastorius is just a fascinating element.
Get on that tour on the Hijira. Yeah.
Okay. You have produced some really, really fascinating art. Tell me how you first got involved in this.
I work with it's fiber art, and I print by using the foliage and the flowers and the seed pods from my property where I live out in the cornfields of Hebron, to make beautiful pieces, scarves like the one I'm wearing. See, two scarves. Yes. And keep in mind that I have been in fabric and clothing, and fibers have been my means of expression of my art ever since I was in early grade school. And my professional background is managing fabric stores. So I've worked with color, and I've worked with style, and patterns, but I was never considered myself an artist until I started watching different videos on Instagram during COVID. COVID for me was a blessing. I went into spiritual retreat during that time on my own, but because I was in isolation. But to see what other people are doing, mostly women around the world, and to be able to print my own fabric was just astounding, and then to be able to make wall hangings, to make framed pieces, to make purses and scarves and shawls, and then with a lot of my pieces, I add embroidery to show off just parts of the images that show up in the printing. And my printing is done either with steam or with simmering in plain water or in vats of dye. So it's just fun, and you never know what's going to happen. And I'm just grateful beyond words. Yes.
Well, I have to tell you, my mother says hello, and again, she thanks you for those wonderful pillow covers that you made for her. Let's do this. Let's tee up one of my favorite musicians back in Texas. He used to perform regularly at Billy Bob's, and when David Allan Coe would come onto the stage, you never knew what was going to happen. It was always going to be a brand new show, never to be repeated. Carlos Santana is one of the great premier guitarists of all time, and I remember many, many, many years ago, as a young lawyer, I was involved with a group of people who were investors in Paul Reed Smith's company, PRS. And Paul had gone to California to get people like Carlos Santana, not just him, but get people like him to endorse and play his guitars. And I think originally it was scheduled for a week. And as it turned out, he was there 6 weeks. Well, the investors didn't necessarily get the fact that you just don't walk into Carlos Santana and say, play this. Okay. It's a relationship. And there was a great deal of reworking of the guitar, which Paul is a superb luthier, that needed to take place for this to occur. But still, to this day, he plays nothing but PRS. Now, the next song is The Band. And the song that you've chosen is The Wait. This is truly one of the Ronnie Hawkins made a terrible mistake letting these guys go, but Bob Dylan was the recipient of that. And we're going to listen to them. And then we're going to listen to Highwomen. We Are the Highwomen. And this is a monumental and iconic group who are playing music to a very, very broad audience, but they're doing it on their own terms. So let's tee these up, and we'll be back in just a second. Okay, here we are. David Allan Coe. Is he going to sing a song? Is he going to throw a beer bottle at somebody? Is he going to pull a gun? You never knew.
I'm sure. Fun. And it comes out through his music. It really does. That person.
You know the song that Chris Stapleton does, Tennessee Whiskey?
Oh, I love that song.
David Allen did the first recorded version of that. It was written by a guy, I think, named Dean Dillon, who has got a resume as long as my arm of songs. Ray Price ended up doing it, but many people feel that as good as Stapleton's version was, David Allan Coe is still he's the one, because he was the first one who did it. First time you heard it, what'd you think?
Oh, I was blown away because it was so much fun. It was so much fun, and it was I like raw songs.
Yeah.
A raw, and this was just down and dirty, gut level. And I loved it. Yeah. And former boyfriend and I, we just loved singing it together.
That's a great song.
yeah, it's fun to sing.
Do you
It's
still
really
sing?
fun. Just out.
Do you still sing?
Billy, you and I can practice one time, but I love to sing, and you know I love to sing harmony. So yeah.
Okay, then we will do that. Now, Carlos Santana, um, Europa is probably one of the songs that fewer people know this than his big hits.
Then his rock and roll stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
It,
This is more of a jazz piece,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yes. Yes. And it's jazz, blues, just heartfelt, gut wrenching to me. And I've been aware of Santana since the 60s, 70s. And then having musician sons, my ex-husband was a musician. He was a blues musician. And then my sons both are musicians. And I introduced them when they were in high school, I introduced them to Santana. And one day when my son Nick, he does play lead guitar, still he's in his 40s. He and I went into a music store, and he picked up a guitar and started playing that song. And I'm
Proud mama.
oh, I was just crying. So it is a yeah, tender memories, and yeah, I'll stop anytime I hear it.
That's a great
Yes.
story. How far back does your relationship with listening to the band go?
Not that far, because in the 70s and 80s I was still into folk music,
Uh-huh.
and so, like, case in point, I never listened to Grateful Dead until really recently, and now I
Okay.
enjoy it. So
Uh-huh.
I'm a latecomer to them too. Um, but any song that I like that I can sing to easily and figure out the harmony to,
Right, right.
that'll catch me. And then I have an album too by Robbie Robertson that's all Native American music.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Is that
I'll pass.
is that on a single album that he did? Just
Yes.
him?
Yes. Well, Rita Coolidge is on it. She and her sisters, they have a group, and they sing on it as well.
Okay. I have a terrible Rita Coolidge story. Rita Coolidge um, had a boyfriend when they lived in Laurel Canyon in California by the name of Jim Gordon. Jim Gordon was the drummer for Derek and the Dominoes.
Mm-hmm.
When Layla got done, that coda, or they call it the piano exit, when
Mm-hmm.
that was introduced, he was sitting around playing it on a piano, and Eric Clapton came in and liked it and said, "Okay, let's add this." Well, what he didn't say is that all of that melody line was from Rita Coolidge, and never gave her proper credit for it. So here we are. We're raising our hand in justification for Rita Coolidge getting credit for that.
I will pass that on whenever I can. Yes.
Well, maybe there was karma involved. Jim Gordon's been in prison for killing his mother in the last probably
Ooh,
20 years. Well, schizophrenia.
yeah.
He had
Okay.
undiagnosed schizophrenia.
Okay.
But karma's a strange
Karma's
mistress.
Karma's a bitch. Yes.
Okay. High Woman. Tell me about High Women.
Hi. I am a longtime listener of Waylon Jennings and the Highwaymen,
Oh yeah.
all of them, and loved them. And then I just happened, because of Pandora, when I was listening to the Highwaymen station, the Highwaymen song came on. We Are the Highwaymen.
Okay.
And that's a lot of the way that I'm introduced to new music is through Pandora, and they're just throwing
Yeah,
things at. Um, and that's how I was introduced to Brandy Carlisle as well.
great artist.
But the words to the song just bring tears to my eyes. Just the stories behind each little vignette that they sing about, which is especially with the burning of the witches,
Okay.
and because I can follow my lineage back to Salem at the time of the witch burnings. So, but yeah, anyway.
Okay. Let's tee up a couple of my favorites. Here we have Peter, Paul, and Mary doing El Salvador or El Salvador. Buddy Guy, one of the great guitar players of all time, Feels Like Rain. This may be one of, I would say, up there with Layla, one of my 2 or 3 favorite songs of all time, and that's Bonnie Raitt and John Prine doing Angel from Montgomery.
Yes.
Not only a beautiful song, but 2 incredible artists melding so beautifully, within this work. Now, Red Molly, 1952, Vincent Black Lightning.
Richard Thompson's song.
Well, you and I went with your former administration and my lovely bride. We went up to, I guess it was the Opera House in Dover.
Correct.
To see Red Molly.
Venue there. Yes.
Oh, they were incredible.
Yes.
They were absolutely incredible. Okay, let's tee these up, and we'll be back on the back end in just a minute. This is Billy Earl here on Delmarvalous Americana on WSTL 90.7. It's the place to be, and if you're not here, then you'll never understand the meaning of this phrase. A world without live music just ain't hardly worth it. We'll be back in a minute.
Amen. Amen.
Okay. Peter, Paul, and Mary. I guess all of us, our age, probably started with them and their like during the folk period, which was it was music, it was politics, it was a lot of things, and it was completely perplexing to our parents, but it struck a chord. Tell me about El Salvador.
El Salvador. El Salvador has such a deep connection for me because I read about there's a book, Salvador Witness. It's about a woman, a Catholic woman, and 3 nuns who went down to El Salvador and then were murdered.
Okay.
This was in the early 80s. In the 70s and the 80s is when, within the Catholic Church, liberation theology came out of Argentina. Our current Pope is a liberation theologian. And El Salvador and Nicaragua, the villages accepted and embraced the theology of liberation theology, which was to claim Jesus as themselves, that they were the embodiment of spirituality, and of Jesus' teaching, and they were going to help each other, so it was all communal. They were living communal lives because the oligarchs were taking everything from them. And I'll stop on the politics on that point because it goes really deep for me, with the former Pope and Ronald Reagan.
Then let's do this. Let's make a date in the future to get back into this for the Sue Bromm Part 2. Let's talk a little bit about Buddy, because Buddy was everybody who's anybody in the guitar world has stolen from Buddy judiciously. I know I have.
Yeah. Well, and he's so much fun to listen to. I love his voice.
Yeah.
I love his intonations. I love interpretations. And there's that one, and there's another one that he does that I really, really love. And I was torn between this song and another one. But What Kind of Woman Is This? Which is that's a fun song too.
What a great guitar player too. Okay, let's
Yes.
talk about Angel. Angel is a song that's been covered by an incredibly large number of people. You will find it in almost every bar in Ocean City as a cover. It has been, and I will say this, the original version that John Prine did was just okay. Until Bonnie and her people got involved, it didn't have that special it thing. First time you heard that, were you already a Bonnie fan or a John fan?
I've been a Bonnie Raitt fan for, since the 80s, I guess. And John Prine, I remember him from the early 70s.
Yeah.
Listening to his work. And this song, I just love singing it. It's one of those other ones that, let me sing this, so.
Well, I will say this, the greatest single line in all of music comes from the last verse of this song about flies in the kitchen, because I can hear them buzzing.
Yeah. And well, there's the other line about how can anyone work all day and come home and have nothing
to say.
Yeah, that's so good.
Oh my goodness.
I've been there with that one.
Haven't we all? Tell me about Red Molly and your first recognition of knowing who they were and digging their stuff.
So my musical friend here, he introduced me to Red Molly 15 years ago or so, and he and I went to see them, including the time with you, at least 5 times. And I have several of their CDs, some of their solo work and some of their combined work. And this song too, it's just so much fun to sing, and it's such a great story. You can picture every bit of it, and so and Red Molly, their harmonies and the way just the way they present it. Richard Thompson, who wrote it, I've seen him do it, and it's good, and it's more guttural, and it's earthier, but they just take it to a higher level, and it's so.
That's the part about interpreting other people's music. Now, we're running out of time, but before we go, I want you to tell me where people can find your work and what you've got coming up.
Okay, I will be teaching 2 classes this month. One at Art Space, downtown Salisbury. I'll be teaching a printing class from 4 to 6. I'm looking at my calendar. That's what I'm looking over. April the 15th, which is a Saturday. And then on Sunday, April the 23rd, I'll be teaching that same class at the Mary Haven, which is a wonderful gift shop and small gallery in Snow Hill.
Gotcha.
I'll be at this Friday. I am in a juried show in Ocean City. And so there's a lot of fun things. I'm stepping up my game and learning a lot, but being in some shows, I'm trying to get a booth at the folk festival as well. So that's cool.
Well, look, your work is exceptional. It's and I hope that everybody figures out how to find it. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been Billy Earle on Delmarvalous Americana with Sue Bromm. Namaste.
Oh. Namaste.
hear the songs that we're talking about, go to Delmarvalous Americana on YouTube for the full Megillah. This has been Delmarvalous Americana here on YouTube, on PAC 14 in Salisbury, and on NPR on WSDL 90.7. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure and go to Delmarvalous Americana House Concerts on Facebook for a schedule of those live music shows here in Salisbury, Maryland. Enjoy, adios, and namaste.